Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your source material, your articles, research, your notes, and distill it into, well, a coherent, captivating conversation.
That's the goal.
And today, we are leaning away from the spreadsheets, away from market analysis. We're diving into something much more fundamental, the true meaning of giving.
That's right. Our source material today is a really powerful reflection on stewardship. It draws its ethical and philosophical principles from a core passage in 2 Corinthians, specifically verses 8.10 and 11.
Right.
And the mission here, it's not to tell you how much to give. It's really to explore the very foundation of why and how we contribute to any cause, charitable or otherwise.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our mission is to understand what our source calls simply the gift of the heart. We're focusing intensely on the intention behind the action, the spirit versus, say, the obligation.
Yeah.
It's all about the attitude that drives the hand that opens the wallet.
And the source establishes this premise right from the jump, citing that scripture, now therefore finish doing it, so that as there was a readiness to desire it, so there may also be a completion out of what you have.
Okay.
The key insight there is that action must flow from a sincere internal willingness. The grace of giving begins with a truly willing heart.
That sounds like a beautiful, almost pure ideal. But the source immediately pivots, doesn't it? It goes straight to a real-world reality.
Yeah.
The dark, often ugly side of organized fundraising.
Absolutely. The author, who has decades of experience in ministry, he expresses this intense, almost gut-level aversion to methods he labels as secular and coercive.
Coercive, that's a strong word.
It is. He found them manipulative and just, completely counterproductive to the very idea of a willing heart.
He describes experiences that go far beyond just sitting through a slightly too long annual appeal. Can you detail the specifics of what he found so repugnant?
Well, he talks about being constantly subjected to demands for fundraising, these incessant requests that seem to just ignore the financial realities of the people being asked.
Right.
But more disturbing were the emotional tactics. He talks about being accused, being shamed, and having appeals pitched in ways that almost felt like threats in order to get a donation. It was all designed to pressure a specific outcome.
Wait a minute. He's saying the methods he observed, shaming, emotional manipulation, were so aggressive they felt like a subtle coercion.
Precisely. The goal was clearly to bypass any genuine willingness and just force compliance.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the source admits that these manipulative methods failed spectacularly in his own life.
Oh, they didn't just fail. They actively backfired. He states point blank that these coercive techniques never increased his intended giving amount. Never. In fact, he confesses that he often reduced his giving out of pure disgust for what he called those secular methods.
That's a huge lesson, isn't it? The source is essentially saying that coercion isn't just ethically unsound, but it's financially counterproductive. You risk alienating donors, and you train them to resent the very act of giving.
Exactly. When the method feels impure, the impulse to contribute is immediately compromised. The psychological cost, it often outweighs the financial gain for the institution using those tactics.
And to illustrate the absolute peak of this anti-coercion feeling, the source shares an amazing anecdote about a historical figure who went in the complete opposite direction.
This is a classic story, yeah. It involves the American writer Mark Twain.
Ah, okay.
He was reportedly so repulsed by the perpetual high-pressure fundraising appeals during a church service that he refused to donate what he had intended. But he didn't stop there.
What did he do?
Instead of contributing, he reached into the collection plate and actually took a banknote out of it.
He took money. That is the ultimate act of protest against manipulation.
It is.
It perfectly captures that visceral rejection of feeling used. I imagine he was sending a very clear message. I was so put off by your method, I'm reversing the transaction.
It's an extreme demonstration for sure, but it underscores the central conflict. When the request violates the state of the giver's heart, the entire transaction becomes toxic. And that really, it forcefully transitions us to the theological core of this source.
Which is that crucial distinction between the gift of the heart and the gift in the hand.
This is the definitive theological hinge point. The source clarifies that the measure of the gift is internal, not external. God, in this context, looks at the inner gift, the intention, the wish, not merely the physical gift that's in your hand.
So the sincerity of the heart is the true measure of the offering.
That's the idea.
Okay, so let's dig into the nuance, because this sounds wonderful. But what happens when reality intervenes? What if your heart is willing to do great things, but your current means are, well, they're insufficient. You're willing, but unable.
The source addresses that specific tension. If you have a willing heart, but your resources are truly limited, the spiritual record, as it were, still sees and records that sincere intention. The intent, the wish of the heart, is accounted for, regardless of the physical limitation of the hand. The limitation is acknowledged, but the desire is affirmed.
That's really reassuring for anyone struggling financially.
Yeah.
But what about the opposite? What if you're pressured to give more than you genuinely intended? Maybe you felt embarrassed or coerced, so you physically gave a larger sum than your heart wished.
This is where it becomes profoundly challenging to conventional giving. Even if your hand produces a larger sum, the source suggests that the spiritual record only notes the sincerity and the quantity that the heart originally intended.
Really?
Yes. So if you intended $20 but felt obligated to write a check for $50, the true spiritual gift remains that initial $20. The physical size is deemed secondary to the true inner quantity of sincerity.
That completely upends the common view of charity, where the visible, quantifiable amount is often treated as the only thing that matters. But I have to ask, if the heart's willingness is all that truly registers, then why is the action required at all? Why should I even bother with the execution?
And that's the critical practical bridge the source crosses. We can't confuse sincerity with a lack of execution. The source is very firm that a willing heart is not a substitute for the necessary action.
Okay, so it's not a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Not at all. If the willingness is honest and aligns with a greater purpose, then the matter should, in fact, be completed. Sincere intention is the vital beginning, but it requires diligent action to fulfill its purpose.
That idea, the link between sincere intent and purposeful action, is beautifully illustrated by the personal anecdote the author shared about his own birthday.
Yes, the story where his children decided against giving him any material gifts. They reasoned he already had enough things, so a purchased item would just lack true meaning.
So what do they do instead?
Instead, they just reached out with sincere greetings via a video call. The pastor describes that intentional, heartfelt, non-material interaction as being sweeter than any physical gift or item of clothing they could have bought.
That's powerful.
It shows that the purest form of generosity is relational and intentional, not transactional. It wasn't the material thing that mattered, but the time, the thought, the sincerity of the connection. And that really is the essence of the gift of the heart.
Right, and it circles back. When the motivation flows from gratitude and grace, the desire to give more, whether that's money or time or sincere attention, it becomes natural and joyful rather than a forced obligation.
Exactly.
So what does this idealistic view of giving mean for the practical administration of resources, stewardship and church finance?
Yeah.
Let's move to section 3, because the source directly tackles the cynicism many people feel when financial matters are discussed.
It does.
Specifically, that common, often barbed criticism is giving just increasing the pastor's salary.
And that cynicism is addressed directly by reframing the purpose of financial contribution within a theological and historical context. The source points back to the Old Testament, where tithing was designed to support the Levite tribe.
Okay, for context, the Levites were set aside for sacred work and ministry, meaning they were generally unable to own land or establish independent financial means. Their support was an institutional necessity.
Exactly. Giving was an ancient mechanism to ensure the function of the ministry could continue. So carrying that forward, the source confirms that a minister's wage today is appropriate. It's considered the necessary wage of a worker.
A fair wage for fair work.
And providing that support is a crucial and healthy expression of love and care for the person dedicated to that work.
But the source makes a very important distinction here about the character of the recipient. It's not like every minister is automatically entitled to that support.
Correct. The source contrasts the appropriate compensation for a dedicated, hardworking servant with the compensation sought by the lazy and greedy worker, someone only interested in a high salary, whom the author likens to a small opportunist or, a thief operating within the structure.
So the focus isn't just on the act of giving, but also on the integrity of the recipient.
Precisely. A minister must embody the principles of good stewardship. They must be a good steward of all the resources God provides, and that includes financial resources. They can't be someone who merely buries the silver in the ground or wastes resources on vanity projects.
Accountability.
Accountability and diligent, transparent use of funds are non-negotiable.
And to prove that this heart-first philosophy actually works in the practical world of institutional finance, the source shares an encouraging data point from the author's own experience.
It's a remarkable example. The author's own congregation was relatively small, about 50 people. But despite their size, they never experienced a financial crisis or lack. Their needs were consistently met.
And the quantitative proof of their sincerity is, it's actually astounding. Their deep dedication to this gift of the heart approach translated into radical generosity.
It really did.
Their external giving money used specifically for caring for others outside the church exceeded a stunning 12% of their total annual operating costs.
Think about that. That is far beyond mere operational survival. It demonstrates a profound, outward-focused generosity that just has to flow from sincere intention. It's real-world proof that when you focus on the motivation and sincerity of the heart, the resources needed for the mission and ministry, they follow.
So the focus must be on the spirit of the giver, not the coercion of the fundraiser.
That's the takeaway.
That connection to the bigger picture is vital. This discussion isn't just about theology. It's about motivation in all forms of contribution, whether it's your time, your money, or your professional effort. Which is why the source material offers 3 fantastic reflection prompts for you, the listener, to use for personal analysis.
These are excellent prompts for critical thinking and self-assessment. First, which fundraising methods do you personally find most agreeable, the ones that prompt genuine willingness? And which ones do you find most repugnant, the ones that make you recoil?
Right. And second, in a public setting, like a church or an organizational meeting, what is the appropriate amount of time that a leader should spend discussing financial offerings? Should it be a constant push, or is that time better spent on other things that deepen the connection to the mission?
And third, do most people naturally prioritize selfless contributions, or do they primarily need constant encouragement, teaching? Or do they feel they truly require outright coercion or subtle threat to give?
That's a deep one.
It really forces us to consider fundamental human motivation when we're faced with financial decisions.
Ultimately, the core takeaway of this deep dive is a realization about motivation. I mean, when the drive to contribute comes from grace, from gratitude, from an internal sense of abundance, the act moves from a begrudging obligation to a joyful opportunity. It completely avoids the traps of secular manipulation.
It just reframes the entire discussion, shifting the focus from the external size of the gift to the internal state of the giver.
Our deep dive today focused on realizing the transformative power of sincere intention. True giving, according to our sources, prioritizes the willingness of the heart above the physical amount given by the hand, and it rejects the corrosive methods of coercion and shaming.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. The source material powerfully equates giving that is unwilling, the kind done begrudgingly, with merely paying a tax.
Just a tax.
So if the divine accounting truly registers only the intent, not the amount, how does this radically redefine the concept of a sacrificial offering? If sacrifice is defined by what you feel and wish to give, regardless of the ultimate sum, how much of your current giving, or indeed your effort in any area of your life, is truly a gift of the heart?